Welcome to another Founder Wisdom Pod. We have Juan Perez with us today. He's co-founder and CTO at Sharely.ai in the Seattle area, ex-Microsoft, almost 10 years there, also ex-founder, so not his first company. Juan, welcome to the pod. Tell us a bit more about yourself and what you're building here.
Yeah, hey Charles, thanks for having me. Yeah, so I had two tours at Microsoft. Actually, the last one was about 10 years. Before that, spent some time in early web all the way through 2004, and then left and did a couple startups and returned in 2014. But anyway, I've caught the entrepreneur bug building, and there's no better time to build than now, I think. I was working in Azure for the last 10 years, working in IoT, AI, and then core infra, and started to see some of the stuff I was doing in AI at Microsoft was computer vision back in like 2018, 2019. And then when LLMs came out, I was tracking that and realized we need to go and simplify and make knowledge useful. That was the kind of the beginning, my realization. LLMs were going to be this force to be able to amplify information, hopefully knowledge towards audiences. Started off with the marketing domain, trying to figure out how to create customer journeys, and realized that the platform we built really is a way to simplify taking content, adding it to the system, and then using that with your and distributing that to distributed networks, which is really where we found the strongest signals for product market fit. Where it starts to hurt, of course, in organizations that have a distributed network, often very large organizations that would never buy like a user-based license for those people, right? Think of like service organizations that are like manufacturers that have networks of support folks, that they want to distribute this knowledge and update that knowledge and get a feedback loop from them on how those people consume the knowledge, of course, activated by AI, but it really starts off with search, and then it grows to agents as well. So that's a very high level of the journey of how I've landed at the current spot.
Right. Let's start with Microsoft. My GPT is prompted to always be contrarian, right, and dispute my points. And I've been talking shit about Microsoft since quite some time, and Google as well. Still do, by the way. But then ChatGPT told me that Satya was one of the best CEOs of our time. You worked under him, and I was like, yeah, you've got a fairly good point. I think their ChatGPT deal is genius. I think they're still pulling out big moves. What's your take on the current Microsoft? Still, is it still slow, bureaucratic, as my former mind used to think of? And are they pulling smart moves to have a stake in this AI future?
Well, it's been a couple of years since I was there. Microsoft is a place that moves very fast. Even in the places that move slow, the volume, the volume that you're dealing at, the scale you're dealing at, is unbelievable. And so I think they're moving really fast. I think that some of the things that Satya did since coming on 2014 as CEO were amazing. Obviously, the stock and Wall Street has rewarded them for that, as the growth in cloud and then AI, the deal with OpenAI and all that. So it's quite impressive. But the customer focus I think they have, especially on enterprise, and security and how serious they take security and all that stuff is really kind of like, if I take my experience there, that's what I learned, right? Of understanding, the importance of customer data, and it goes through today even of like, what's the security model for agents? And there's a lot of really interesting enterprise concerns that the rest of the world isn't really thinking about, and Microsoft is on the front lines.
Yeah, talking about that, I think it's a fascinating and very actual topic, right? Like the security layer to the agentic revolution that's happening right now. Like, what is up? Like what will happen? Because these agents technically have or permission to do whatever they want. Hackers will try to exploit that for sure. So, how is that being handled right now? What are the new developments in that space?
Yeah, this is a fascinating space, and we learned this at Sharely really early. as we tried to figure out how are we going to use AI to amplify knowledge towards an audience, the question was, well, by what means and in what context? It's no different than when you, for example, hire a new person in an organization and you're like, hey, welcome to Acme Inc. Your job is to do X, and they might be a great MBA, they might be a great engineer, but you have to kind of like give them the methods and the policies and all that for Acme Inc. And that's really where we realized that surely that agents need to be built in the context of the organizations, the policies, which is baked into the knowledge, right? And so that's why we're about to launch a thing called Custom Agent Server, which, of course, at Sharely, you can use our out-of-the-box agent, which is just a simple question-answer agent that does, RAG based on your knowledge and so on. We have role-based access control and all that, so to make sure that the right people get the right information, the right knowledge. But the truth is that, not all knowledge is made equal, right? They're all, if you think about it, sometimes you want to retrieve things that are in manuals that are very deep and narrow about a topic. Sometimes you want to retrieve, things that might be horizontal and shallow. And the agent needs to know when to pull from what, and the agent needs to classify. So that's one front. The second front is about identity, and this is more kind of an architectural front. But when you think about the way we have identity and access management for humans today, we often give people a lot of rights to go do things and be productive, trusting those people. I think in agents, you want to do the opposite. You want to make them very fit for purpose. You want to give them as little rights as they need to accomplish the tasks that they're going to go after. And I think that's the big thing. There's protocols coming out on this front with A to A and MCP and so on. But I think we still have a long way to go. And ultimately, that's going to be driven from the AI infrastructure, which I think, for example, some, Microsoft, Google, AWS, they're all doing a really good job at trying to blaze those trails and give, provide guidance. But ultimately, it's up to the, it's no different than, we often go back to like, what would you ask a human, right? And how would you help a human? I think there's a lot of transfer there to how would you prepare an agent to go be successful?
Got it. Why leave Microsoft, like country, 10 years salary, like at salary in your positions at least 350K a year? Like, are you crazy? Why launch your own company again?
Oh man, I absolutely, I'm a builder, right? Like I've been building my whole life since I was a kid, since my parents got us a Tandy 1000 way back in the day. And it's magic, right? And there's no better time to build, I think. I actually, when I went back to Microsoft 2014, I was really looking for what is the big problem that I'm going to go after next. And I think as an entrepreneur, like if you do it once, it's kind of pointless, right? Because you learn so much the first time you do it. You kind of get beat up every time a little bit less, hopefully. And at the end of the day, it's definitely not just for the money. Of course, the money is important, but it really is fuel to continue to get to do what we're doing, right? You're the same, I'm sure. So
I feel indeed that I've been less beat up in the last 10 years, but AI is coming, shit is accelerating, and even now sometimes I'm like, is it gonna get harder? Is it gonna get easier? Like I'm Apex Predator, like at really top of my pyramid, go to market, raising capital as a service, which is like stuff that is fundamental to building a company. But my kids, for example, I'm really uncertain, right, that they'll be able to adapt. I launched this school called defineschool.com that is an AI first school for young entrepreneurs. I'm going to have them launch their actual business because I'm like, why wait 15 years for the school system to teach me nonsense and drop me in this market and be like, oh, now figure it out. That's really how I felt at 18. So do you feel the same? Do you think like your kids will have a hard time? And do you feel they'll get like a massive ass whooping from AI?
for sure. I mean, uh, I think there's going to be a lot of turbulence before we get to the nirvana, if that ever happens, right? I'm an optimist, but in the meantime, it's going to be very interesting how things change. Um, whether it's because of the kind of sociological forces of like people using AI as an excuse to fire a bunch of people, right? Or it actually is that there's 10x productivity. Honestly, I don't even think it matters. But at the same time, I think, people say, like, is it worth going in computer science? I got a computer science degree. I learned how to think through that process. And I would argue, computer science, philosophy, physics, communications, journalism, these are all like frameworks in a sense, right? And I personally, I think there's no better time to go into computer science when now you have by default a team, even in computer science school, right? Like, I mean, going and getting a PhD right now would be an amazing experience, right? Because the experimentation would be that much faster. Like, the models are not going to help you give you the answers from the experiments, but they'll definitely help you set the experiments up and deal with the data and so on. So I'm really bullish on for one, education, high level education, as well as using the models to accelerate. I don't think they're like, maybe they'll replace us at some point, but if that happens, it's kind of like that earthquake, that 9.0 earthquake. Like, everybody's in the same boat. Like, do you get insurance for your building at 9.0 earthquake? I don't know. Everybody's messed. They're screwed, right?
Yeah, the LA fire, I guess, the latest example, right? Like, I've
Oh,
got a friend that his house burned down and still waiting for payout from the insurance company. I think he's gonna wait forever. How do you refund like 3 to 4 billion in damage as a company go insolvent, right? Um, Ticket insurance is still a fascinating space, by the way. That if you intersect this and AI, I think it can be massive. Let's talk about Sharely. Who's your ICP, right? Like, who do you target? What's your price point? What's your business about?
Yeah. So at Sharely, we're targeting distributed organizations that, and you know who you are if you're in the ICP, because you probably are distributing knowledge with email. You're probably putting stuff in folders in Dropbox. And most likely at the scale of the folks that we're working with, you built your own websites and with a login system, trying to build an enterprise, knowledge distribution system. And it's just painful, right? And so often the customers that really kind of get the benefit of what, of course they start small, but the large ones with like 100,000 users plus, those are the ones that are really, they're really excited to find us, and we're really excited to meet. In terms of price point, we're interesting because we're targeting this type of audience that is enterprisey, but not able or willing to do a user license. We don't charge user licenses. We're a consumption-based system, which I think is a little bit interesting. We do charge users for admins, so folks who are not, managing the knowledge and administering the system. But usually that's like a handful of folks on a team that's 100K plus users. And then we charge consumption based on top of that. That is based on the number of engagements those people have, and we're trying to align with the incentives and the benefits of activating that knowledge for the audience and align with the organization. So that's how it works.
And what's a burning pain point that you're solving with that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, like the idea that, like, there's a lot of concepts from enterprise around governance and, for example, role-based access control. At the organization that we're talking about, you have different types of knowledge. You have administrative knowledge, you might have finance knowledge, you might have service and support knowledge, and different people log into a system and you want to make sure they don't see the wrong stuff, right? And to do that, usually you're in an enterprise system by default, right? Besides the fact that you might have an agent, you might have search, you might have, what we call browse and taxonomy navigation that kind of leads users through journeys. But all of this is living on top of the foundation of knowledge management. So that really Sharely is broken up into two things, right? Knowledge management and what we call spaces. Spaces is where users engage the knowledge, sometimes through an AI agent, sometimes directly through search. And knowledge management, obviously, is we're trying to make sure that you can translate what you have as content to actual knowledge, because those are not necessarily the same thing, right? Sometimes you might have content that's contradictory, that has gaps, that doesn't serve your audience correctly. Be it for marketing and funnels, or be it for support and sales, right? Knowledge it lives under entropy, just like everything else in the universe that is decaying over time. And you have to put force into it to maintain that health. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to maintain the health of the knowledge and improve it by creating that feedback loop.
Right. And how many clients do you have right now? How do you get these clients? What are your go-to-market systems?
Yeah, we're pretty early. We're just a little over 2 years. Most of the clients have come through founder-led sales. We're starting to get second degree leads and customers. But it's mostly there's a lot of coming off the website and just discovering it but the ones that just like any startup, right? I think the early big ones come from relationships, that people who trust you and people who know you can deliver, and then you deliver for them, and then word spreads. So I think that's, yeah.
Why not try cold outreach like on LinkedIn or cold email, ads, AI SEO? Have you tried some of these things?
Yeah, most of those conversations, we've done some of that, but it's been mostly for customer development and learning about pain and experience and so on. I don't think we're at the point yet where we don't have a PLG motion currently. It's one of the things I'm working on about, because to use Sharely today, you have to have knowledge, have content, be able to distribute to an audience. The value really comes if you already have that audience, right? If you already structured with that pipeline. And we're working towards building a PLG motion that I think those types of motions on ads and outbound are gonna help with that part of the journey. It's not something we have yet that's strong.
I think the best playbook is GTM plus PLG, right? This is the two together. Like you mix that, well, you get new clients plus retention.
That's right.
Best of both worlds. Also, another tip to have more potential client conversation and very valuable product data, right? Podcast. So you invite your ideal clients on a podcast, you ask them questions just like I'm doing with you right now. I even run a company that does that fully as a service called podfire.com. Um, funding, you have funding plans for 2026?
Right now we're not fundraising. We're self-sufficient, so we're growing organically, and it's exciting. I mean, like I said earlier, like it's the best time to build. Building is, I've never written more code in my life. In fact, interestingly, most of the code that I'm writing that's AI assisted is throwaway, and it's really about learning, right? Like hardening the code for production is one thing. Of course, there's some help from AI at that point, but I want to make sure that code is solid. And but the amount of code that I'm just building for prototypes, understanding interaction models and stuff. The truth is, like, keeping the team as small as possible. We have an amazing team of people. We're really small, and growing only as necessary and scaling as much with AI as possible, I think is the motion right now.
Yeah, I think, well, two things. One, your niche, there's a lot of competition. I've seen like lots of people building that. And two, to survive nowadays, you need to pretty much go all in on all fronts, right? Like GTM and raising capital and getting to market as fast as possible. At least that's my biased standpoint. For code, do you use Claude? Is that like the best coding assistant right now?
Yeah, I left Microsoft, and this was one of the things that I was most excited about. And I think I was about a year early, leaving in 2023. I don't think it hit up until like late 24 when I started using Cursor. That was the best one at the time. I kind of shifted to Claude Code later, and I haven't gone back. A lot of friends are talking about how good Cursor is now. But I just think the clip that Claude Code is moving at with the models there are amazing. And that is my go-to for sure.
Interesting. What are your goals for 2026, personal and business?
Oh man, I think personal. The most critical for me is my family. I've got 2 kids and an amazing wife, and we're really core, group of tight knit. We do a lot of camping. We get in the mountains right now. There's a lot of we do a lot of skiing, but obviously in Seattle, I don't know if you've heard about the rain that's happened up here. It's been crazy. The roads are kind of like all blown out, so I don't even know if we'll get up there this year.
Whoa.
But yeah, just being present, I think is the goal personally, with family, with friends, with which is very, very hard in the context of the
Yes.
goals that we have on the business side. I think that on the business side, it's refining that ICP, getting more nuanced. I think you're right. Competing with these labs though that are they're raising billions of dollars. Like, the more nuanced the solution that we can define, that's specific for an audience, that is refining that ICP and getting higher up the stack, the more value we can deliver. Obviously, that seems like the TAM gets small, and obviously VCs don't want to hear that, right? Like, in a sense, like you have to have this very long vision and get there through that journey. But wow, when you get an ICP that is really refined, and you have that conversation, like, just got off a call earlier with a customer we are perfect for that, right? Like, they have over 1 million people they work with. There is no solution. They built a homegrown solution, and it's very, very hard to maintain that if without the team, without the scale, the experience, and so on. So and the long-term investment that I think that the ICP here is not someone who wants to invest in this. They want to leverage tools and platforms that are fit for purpose. And so the more fit for purpose we get, the better is my vision there.
Right. Yeah, most VC, especially in the Valley, it's like a billion 10 in 10 years, right? Like that's what they want to see. They invest in 10 of these companies, they get a star shot of 10 billion, right, in an exit. I think what's becoming trendy right now is like these smaller, sometimes private equity funds that invest in startups that yield cash flow, right? And they're less about the exit. So maybe that could be a fit. You talk about that shiny new ideal client. I get, yeah, probably 3 or 5 of these per day, right? I generate like 50 new leads per day, just sales leads, right? Which is pretty intense. And the problem I see often, I'm like, dude, you're perfect. Like, let's just get on and do business together. But sometimes they just don't have the funds, right? And they're not convinced. That's why, like, yeah, it's like multiple of them per day. If you have 10, maybe one will buy, because the closing rates are lower nowadays. People are pretty tight on budget, generally speaking. I had a question for you with the family stuff you mentioned. Like, how do you balance both? Balance, not the right word, right? But how do they support you? How are you being energy efficient in both spaces, both being a founder and being a dad and husband?
I don't know if there's balance, to be honest. Um, I think every moment is the key, right? For me, it's of course, there, my phone is buzzing, and we're out in the camping, or I'm at a volleyball tournament or something, uh, and it's there's all these forces pulling me. The question is, how do I try to stay focused in that moment? Because you only get that moment once, right? You only get that. Time is the resource that is not regenerative, especially thinking about in this generative AI world, right? So I just think it's about being present at the end of the day, right? Like, and it's not easy. There's no balance. Like, obviously there's forces on both sides, but mostly from the business. Like, there's a lot of pull from there about growth, and at the same time, the support from them. I tell them the stories, right? Like, what is exciting, what's happening, what did we build that's cool. Demoing to kids is amazing, right? They're very brutal. uh Hey, why is this cool? And so it's always great to get feedback from them as well.
That's funny. Well, Juan, thanks for coming on. Where can people find out more about you and your business?
Yeah, Sharely.ai. I'm also on LinkedIn. Sharely.ai is the website. Reach out, DM me. I'm Juanage, Juanage on X and Twitter. Yeah, and thanks for having me, Charles. Really, really great to chat.
I was Juan and Charles for another